Welcome to another episode with your chapter crush sweetheart. This is Everblue Presents When You're Enough, a chapter crush sweetheart series. Bronwyn, Chapter 4. To Sam Ferrer, we're no longer friends. Don't stop by my office for licorice ever again. Sincerely, Bronwyn Sullivan, your former work bestie. Sunday, August 31, 10:36 a.m. From Sam Ferrer. Even though I'm sorry it played out that way, it's still the best meet cute I've heard in ages. I think I deserve that spa certificate. 10:37 a.m. To Sam Ferrer. You're welcome to try to take it from his cold, dead hands. 10:37 a.m. From Sam Ferrer. Just remember you still need his half of the rent. Sitting against the fluffy pillows on my bed, I bang my head against the dark wood and wicker headboard as I silently wait for Morning Wind to go away. Why? Because Morning Wind don't care. Night Wind could have done something terrible and confessed at the police station. Morning Wind is who you use your one phone call on. Morning Wind hides the bodies and hushes up witnesses. By the time Morning Wind is through, you're free from jail, lounging on a beach on a small island with a pina colada in one hand and a tiny umbrella in the other. What's my point? After having gone for my morning run, showered, and dined on my typical breakfast of 2 eggs over easy, half an avocado and toast, with the new addition of my roommate's liver, and blasting out my ex-bestie who still maintains her innocence, I need to figure out what to do. The man is insufferable. It's far too early to become arch enemies. It's only day 2 for crying out loud. Yet, that's exactly what Michel seems to want, because he woke up today and chose violence. Was I relieved to find out he served in some capacity with law enforcement for nearly a third of his life? Heck yes. It's actually closer to half his life if you count his being a lawyer for the last 5 years. It automatically put me at ease, so I thought all was good. After all, even if I ruined his first impression of me, I still let him stay. And that's despite the threat of Dad finding out. That should count for something. I wasn't kidding last night. Dad would kill him, then lock me up at his house in Brooklyn Heights and have Mom feed me a steady diet of nun stew. As in, how many men are you allowed to live with? None. See what I did there? And what's the thanks I get? Despite my kindness last night in letting the matter rest, since his bloodshot eyes looked as if they would fall out of his head and roll themselves somewhere to take a nap, the man behaved like a complete cookie thief this morning. A certifiable maniac. I grimace as I recall passing him this morning as I headed out for my morning run in the park loop. He was already on his way back, his damp hair slicked into a man bun, the designer stubble on his prominent jawline glistening from the sheen of his workout, and the damp gray t-shirt and black running shorts revealed the man must have taken his law enforcement job very, very seriously. Yet I took one for the team and kept my eyes up as we approached each other. We made eye contact. I saw him see me, and I didn't even smile. Instead, I fell back on the thing people do when they purse their lips and give a nod as I waved. But instead of returning my wave, nod, or pursed lips, he flew right past me. I didn't need to turn around to hear his footsteps carrying him farther away without a single hesitation. Okay, maybe he hates being disturbed during workouts. Maybe he isn't a morning person. There's a million reasons why someone could come across as being rude, and some of those reasons might even be legitimate. So I pulled my cap lower over my eyes and did my best to let it go and enjoy my run. 45 minutes later, I was in good spirits as I got back to the building, choosing to take the stairs to keep up the adrenaline. After downing the water in the bottle I keep next to my bed, I took a shower, put on a pair of joggers, and an oversized green army t-shirt I stole from Dad years ago. Coming into the kitchen through the butler's pantry so that I could refill my bottle, you could have knocked me over with a feather as the door opened, because there was the man himself, sitting on my kitchen countertop in a fitted tank top and slacks, scraping the bottom of one of the bowls I'd put away from yesterday's soup. And now I'm certain he's modeled for at least 8 romance novel covers I've seen recently. It was bad enough his hair was still wet from a shower and curling over his ears. How do I know it was wet from a shower and not running? Because his unique, sweet leather scent must be soap related. Wait, is that jasmine? I shook my head. Why did I never consider addressing acceptable states of dress before? Fairly sprinting to the fridge, I took my time refilling my bottle from the pitcher. Michel is my fifth roommate since moving in nearly 8 years ago when my old music teacher, Julia Matisse, passed away and left me her apartment. Two of those roommates were horrible. One was decent, and the last one, April, was the best. Yet not one of them sat on the countertops, and certainly not without a shirt on. Okay, maybe Scylla did, but she had on a sports bra. That's different, right? Taking a deep breath, I decided ignoring him was probably my best bet. So, after collecting the eggs, butter, avocado, and bread, I courageously let the door of the fridge close and kept my eyes down as I passed where he was sitting on my favorite preparation spot. Dumping everything on the counter opposite the stove, I realized all of my pans, plates, and utensils were in the cabinets that he was blocking. Great. I crossed to the sink and began washing my hands. I decided it would be easy to just ask him nicely to move. Simple. No muss, no fuss. Yet, when I dried my hands and lifted my head, he was sitting there smirking at me. I raised a brow. What's up? I immediately scowled as his smile widened and he shrugged a broad shoulder. I'm just thinking that your friend, the one you mentioned last night, she was right. You're an American prude. Oh no, he didn't. My brow shot up as I dialed back my initial reaction, but still I crossed the space to stand in front of him, folding my hands in front of me. Oh, somehow I remember that coming out a lot differently. I believe she said, Americans are prudes. Michel chuckled, sitting the empty soup container beside him. And you are an American? No? Rolling my lips into my mouth, I took a deep breath. Yes, but why are you dragging me into it? His gray blue eyes sparkled as his mouth twisted in consideration. Are you used to men sitting on your counter, half dressed? I scoffed. No one has ever dared put their moneymaker on a surface that I prepare my food on. Speaking of which, are you comfortable up there? The candy snatcher smirked as he settled back against the cupboard. Very. Haven't you ever been on top of a counter? Heat automatically bloomed in my cheeks, but seeing the challenge in his eyes, I lifted my chin defiantly. No, I can't say that I have. He sighed heavily, as if it were a tragedy. Well, that's a shame. I think you might enjoy it. I cleared my throat as he continued. It provides a different perspective. For instance, did you realize there's an old wooden box sitting on top of the half bathroom? What? The conversation reversed so rapidly, I wasn't sure I heard him correctly. I turned, looking at the space over the half bathroom as I tried to get a glimpse. You can see a box from up there? Yes, it's dark brown. Perhaps it's old, made of wood. Can you reach it? I asked excitedly. If it was something that Julia or her husband left behind, like a trove of pictures or keepsakes, that would be amazing. He nodded, his eyes sparkling in mirth. Probably. When he doesn't move, my brows rise. Would you please get it from me? Running a hand over his stubbled chin, he gave his head a slight shake. No, I don't think I will. What? Why? I asked, surprise coding the words. Because there's something you have to do first. It's part of the process. What process? I exclaimed, exasperated. His grin was blinding, but I was so annoyed I couldn't even enjoy it. Think about it, he said with a wink, before hopping off the counter and carrying the dish and spoon to the sink. He couldn't be serious. He sits on my counter half naked, spouting nonsense about a process or perspective or whatever. Oh, I spun towards him. You want me to get on the counter? That's it, right? Cutting off the water, Michel's gaze skittered off of me as he began drying the dish with the towel. It would certainly give you a change in perspective. I turned around and eyed the counter dubiously. If I fell, I wouldn't die, but I'd certainly crack something on the stone tile. If you need help getting up there, Michel's quiet voice drifted from somewhere above my head. All you have to do is ask. Ha, ha. Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be doing that. His chuckle felt condescending, and when he said, See, American food, I nearly lost a tire whipping around so fast. Are you serious? I exclaimed, scowling so fiercely I was sure Bryony was going to call any minute to ask why her face hurt. Michel laughed, a rich, deep velvet sound that I honestly didn't think he was capable of. Crossing to the refrigerator, he pulled out the near empty pitcher of water and shook his head. As he began refilling it, I replayed the conversation and realized this was his idea of a joke. There isn't a box, is there? I asked, narrowing my eyes. He quirked a brow, sitting the full pitcher back in the fridge. Why would I lie? I was fuming at that point, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of seeing that. So you made it up just to get a rise out of me. Michel's brows rose as he wandered over to the breakfast nook to put on the blue button-up shirt he had hanging on a chair. As he rolled up the sleeves, he scoffed. What need would I have for making you upset with me, Bronwyn? When he sat down at the table as I set about cooking, I suppressed a groan, grumbling, Be a candy thief if you want, but don't gaslight me. My meal took all of 5 minutes to put together, and despite Michel's lingering looks, I didn't offer him a thing. If he wanted it, he could ask. Pouring a cup of black coffee, I took my food over to the breakfast nook, expecting him to disappear. Instead, he sat forward, eyeing me as I prayed and picked up my fork. Yes? I asked, taking a bite. He rubbed at his chin. I thought you would say something about me eating your food. Why would I? I offered it to you last night. My brows rose as I dipped a piece of toast in the egg yolk and ate it with a slice of avocado. Placing an elbow on the table, he rested his chin in his hand, looking oddly mystified as he said, True, you did. You also offered me breakfast. At that, I burst out laughing. A true belly laugh. The man was clearly delusional. I can't help it if you break your own rules, Michel. But when someone tells me they don't want to eat with me, I take that to heart. Tilting his head, he considered me a moment. I didn't have protein powder. Then I remembered you made the soup last night. I hope you don't mind. I plan to shop later today. Okay, I shrugged, taking a sip of coffee. He turned out to be real talkative for someone who didn't want to be around other people. Your stew wasn't bad, he continued. The potato was interesting, but I enjoyed the bread. Sighing in annoyance, I pasted a smile on my face, and with an even voice I responded, You didn't have to eat the food on my account. If you want to eat alone, I can respect that. I'm not the chef of my family anyway, so you don't have to worry about insulting my food. Michel rolled his eyes. I just said your stew is tasty, and I enjoyed the bread. Okay, thanks. I paused as I remembered that it's Sunday. Are you visiting Dorian today? A goofy smile spread on his face then, and I just knew that despite his odd personality, he's probably a good dad. Yes, but I can't go until 10. That must be difficult, I frowned. I'm sure that makes you look forward to your weeks together even more. I hope you both enjoy the day. I hoped he would take the hint and make like a tree. Do you speak French? He asked abruptly, curiously tilting his head. High school French, if that counts. I could have taken it in college, but by then I thought it would be a good idea to take Mandarin. I shrugged offhandedly. Why do you ask? He nodded as if digesting the information. It's just the way you say some words, and you said your music teacher was French? You imitated her accent so well, I just thought maybe that I did, and that she was. I raised a brow, not giving an inch. Will I ever tell him I passed my French proficiency in the 98th percentile? Or that I spent so many years conversing with Julia that I still dream in French? No. It would be like telling him my favorite pastime includes watching Chinese dramas without the subtitles. Fun fact, but highly irrelevant. He nodded thoughtfully. I was just wondering if it will bother you that my daughter and I will likely spend most of our time conversing in French. She has been learning English, but it has only been a year. I don't want you to be offended. I snorted and immediately regretted it. Whether or not I'm offended, I don't need to be mean about it. I'll get by. I can probably speak with a 5-year-old. Even one as smart as Dorian, I wink. Michel shifts in his seat. You really don't have to go out of your way. It's only a year. Maybe it's better if she doesn't get too attached. My nose flared as I took a deep, calming breath. Scooping the last bit of egg onto my toast, I topped it with the last slice of avocado and downed it. I could feel his eyes burning into me, but I focused on chewing slowly so that I wouldn't open my mouth and erupt. You disagree, he stated firmly. My eyes flashed to his in irritation, but I said nothing as I sipped my coffee. Just say what you're thinking, he abruptly exclaimed with an odd look of exasperation on his face. Yet there was also curiosity and maybe anger? But why would he be angry at me? I haven't said a word. The very idea makes me indignant. You're her father, I say carefully. Whatever you think is best. Michel's brow twitched as he slowly ran both of his hands through his hair. Bronwyn, do you always have a problem with saying what's on your mind? I scoffed. Like it matters to him? My gaze cut away as I responded. I say what I need to say. His voice is tinged with agitation as he replied, but not what you want to say? Sitting my cup down with a soft thud, I pursed my lips as I stared in the dark depths. Why would you care, Michel? I smoothly responded, despite my rapid heart rate. You don't want to share meals? Fine. You don't want me to interact with your daughter? Fine. These are your rules, and apparently you're the only one who can break them. But there's nothing between us that entitles you to my wants or feelings. As I drained my cup, ready to get out of there, he shocked me when he spoke again. You're right. I looked up sharply and blinked at the remorse reflected in the sunny depths of his eyes. I grunted a response because I knew I was right. I didn't need his validation. Yet I paused my flight when he put his hand out, as if to touch my arm before slowly withdrawing it. I'm sorry. I was wrong, Bronwyn. The side eye that man was hit with was epic as I responded. I'm still not making you breakfast. His mouth fell open as he chuckled in disbelief. Well, not yet. I'm sorry. What? Who? I scowled indignantly as Michel cleared his throat. What I mean is, that's okay. You don't have to explain. I cut in. I'm at my limit on whatever this is supposed to be. It was definitely time to recharge my social battery. I had just finished stacking my dishes when he rested a cool hand on my arm. Resisting the urge to shake it off, I pressed my lips together in a thin line. When I met his gaze, he offered a small smile. I just want what's best for Dorian. I was being rude, and I shouldn't have tried to goad you into answering when you were unwilling to share. You're right. It was unfair of me to ask more of you than I ask of myself. My head tilted involuntarily as I considered him. Is that what I said? It's definitely what I felt, but an uneasy feeling passed through me. I didn't know what the feeling was, but it made me squirmy. I had to get out of there. Okay, I responded simply as I looked between him and the hand on my arm. His brows rose, but I had nothing else to add. I felt colder when he removed his hand. Bronwyn, if you want to tell me what you really think, I may debate with you or present other perspectives, but I'm always willing to listen. Just like that, the uneasiness melted. Somehow, the little wedge of light his statement seemed to open made me believe him. I crossed my arms as I dubiously squinted at him. Are you sure? I was under the assumption you wanted to keep our lives as separate as possible. Michel paused, a look of consternation on his face as he studied me. The wrinkle in his brow released when he finally sighed. Maybe a bit of honesty will help here. I sat back in my seat and waited for him to continue. Crossing his arms, he pursed his lips for a moment. The short story is my divorce was very difficult. I would very much like to avoid putting any other stress on Dorian if possible. Reaching up, I pulled out my hair tie, giving my scalp a bit of a massage to calm my nerves. So, what are you trying to say, Michel? Because what I'm getting is, you think I'll do or say something to hurt your daughter and possibly you? Is that right? His head snapped back, surprise reflected in his eyes. I suppose, if I have permission to speak freely. Cute. I waited for him to continue with a nod of my head. When Michel rubbed his hands together but nothing came out, I tilted my head. Would it help if you try saying it in French first to organize your thoughts? His eyes immediately cleared of the troubled look. Can I? Okay. When he switched to French, I desperately tried to concentrate on what he was saying and not how his gentle vowels rolled off his tongue, because reasons. Maybe it was because he didn't think high school is that impressive that he stared out of the kitchen window and rattled off what seemed like every thought in his brain. Or maybe he was just talking to himself and I happened to be eavesdropping. Whatever the case, as I listened to him spilling his guts, I came to realize that the man is terrified and doesn't know it. He's been burned in what was a short but terrible marriage and an acrimonious divorce. 6 years ago, he and Yvette were married, and pretty much the following month found out they were pregnant. Michel left his job as a police officer and became a lawyer that prosecuted for the military instead so that he could be home regularly instead of being deployed, whatever that means. In the meantime, Yvette suffered postpartum depression and struggled as a new mother. As a result, Michel handled the day-to-day with Dorian as Yvette drifted farther away. He didn't say what she did, but whatever it was often enough for there to be a final straw. They divorced, and now he's trying to co-parent with his volatile ex-wife while protecting his and his daughter's hearts. It means he's sworn off not just relationships, but also close contact with women. And after he apologized for being an idiot as he tried to figure me out, he mumbled about not being able to risk being hurt again, not if he's going to remain whole for Dorian and himself. Yet, while he'd love to keep me in a little box far away from them, he realizes how impossible it will be to do that totally. In short, he's struggling with how to navigate our roommate situation since he doesn't want any misunderstandings to occur. When he finally looked at me, he nodded and returned to English. Okay, I think that helped. I hummed in response, but patiently waited to hear him out. With a shake of his head, he looked at me earnestly. I am not looking for a romantic relationship. Not now, not ever. I don't want you to get the wrong idea that could affect our living situation this year. I couldn't help smirking in response. You said a lot in French. Is that what it boils down to? Cautiously eyeing me, he sat back, hooking an arm over the back of his chair. Pretty much. I nodded. Okay, well, thank you for your honesty, but you have nothing to worry about from me. If only he knew how little he'd have to worry about me trying to come on to him. I want you to feel like this is a safe place for you to say what's on your mind, I continued. So thank you for letting me know your concern, but I'm not the type of woman to go chasing after men. I can only try to be what I think is a good roommate, and that means I will always do my best to respect your boundaries. He tilted his head. Even when it's difficult, or else, am I right? His tone sounded accusatory, but his eyes were incisive, knowing, and I ducked my chin in response. Who is this man, and who told him he could come in here saying whatever he wanted? Michel chuckled. You don't like being called out on your true feelings either. Okay, I brightly responded, pushing back from the table. That's enough of that. Before you go, he started, reaching under the table to pull out a familiar pink and green notebook. What is this supposed to be?